I'm announcing today that I'm running for president of the United States of America.
Senator Tim Scott has officially launched his 2024 presidential campaign.
The South Carolina Republican made the announcement at his alma mater of Charleston Southern University earlier today, just moments ago. He is now the latest high-profile politician to join the party's growing presidential field.
Antjuan Seawright and Hogan Gidley join us now. Antjuan is a CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist, and Hogan previously served as White House Deputy Press Secretary in the Trump administration. Welcome to you both. You both have very deep ties in South Carolina. And Hogan, I want to start with you. Senator Scott's announcement, of course, is not a surprise. How does it shake up the Republican Party ahead of the 2024 election?
Well, look, I think the field obviously is going to be crowded at this point, and I would argue as a Republican we welcome as many differing viewpoints and opinions and politicians as we could possibly get on our side. And this is another one who has a long, storied history of upholding those Republican conservative credentials. Tim Scott is beloved in the state of South Carolina. He outlined a vision today for the future and really ran on a positive message. He used lines like, the left has taken America from a culture of greatness to a culture of grievance. He talked about going from cotton to Congress in a single generation. He has a very good, uplifting message about faith in America, hope for America. I think his optimism is going to be infectious, and I think it's going to be a good messaging point for our side to compare and contrast where we are as a party, where our beliefs are, and believing in the greatness of America versus the left, who thinks America is the cause of the world's problems and inherently evil at its core. And so I think he really does present a problem for the left. He is an African-American man. We have an Indian woman, an Indian man on our side as well, all talking about America's greatness. And I think Tim Scott's going to do a great job. I don't know that he finishes much above third place in most polling. That's where he's going to be, probably in South Carolina as well. But I think right now he's off to a really good start.
Antjuan, I see you smiling there. I'm sure you want to get in on this. But what, to that point about the positive message, that really Tim Scott is the only one in the Republican Party who can really make the argument in the way that he's made it. How much does that potentially hurt Democrats, and how are Democrats reacting to this announcement?
Look, I'm so excited as a Democrat because I live in a reality. And the reality for us and most people in this country is that we have a president and a vice president who's had the most productive 2 years than many other presidents combined in this country. Their policy agenda touches all four corners of the American square, and there's not a constituency in this country who has not benefited one way or another from the Biden-Harris agenda. And even Republicans, Washington, D.C. Republicans who voted no, went back to their districts and took the dough that came down from the Biden-Harris administration. When my dear friend Hogan talks about compare and contrast, I love that kind of conversation. Let me tell you why. We welcome that in our party, because here's the reality that I think Tim Scott and every other Republican who is not Donald Trump has to face. One, they have not had their hood checked or their tires kicked outside of their electoral position that they had in South Carolina. That's Tim Scott being our United States Senator. The two, majority of them are going to spend their time trying to run away from Trump but embrace Trumpism. And that policy agenda is really out of step and out of touch with the American people. When Tim Scott, my dear friend from South Carolina, talks about the most extreme abortion ban, when he talks about some of the things from a policy agenda perspective, and you look at from a general election perspective, it's out of touch. You have to be president of the Republican Party before you can be president of the United States, and they're going to have to do everything they can to embrace the right-wing extremism that now makes up the Republican Party.
Hogan, let me ask you about something you just said a moment ago. You said that with respect to Senator Scott, you said you don't know that he will finish much above third. And I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about why. And do you think that Senator Scott, as well as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, might be able to chip away at that commanding lead that Donald Trump has right now?
Well, look, Donald Trump's way ahead of the field. And as I often quote the former World Wrestling Federation champion Ric Flair, who said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Donald Trump is the man right now in Republican politics by miles over Ron DeSantis and, of course, Tim Scott. But the fact is, there are different lanes for different people. My cohort here is right. I think most of the Republicans are going to run on Trump's policies, just trying to reject his personality. I would argue that personality is what got us the policies in a toxic Washington. But nonetheless, West. I think that's where they're going to try and stake their claim. And so someone like Ron DeSantis is probably going to expect the courts to kind of muddle with Trump so he doesn't have to. And I think someone like Tim Scott is going to wait and see what happens between DeSantis and Trump to see if they're too scarred to move forward. And hopefully he's the beneficiary of all the voters who end up rejecting both DeSantis and Trump. That remains to be seen. But for now, I think a state like South Carolina is solidly for Trump. Most politicos on the ground there tell me no one really need bother visiting. It's Trump country through and through. But someone like Tim Scott can be that happy warrior. I'm not sure if Republican primary voters want a happy warrior. They just want a warrior at this point because the policies that the Biden administration has put in place has really hurt all Americans, regardless of race, religion, color, or creed. We've got a wide open border, drugs pouring into our country, killing our children, high numbers of human trafficking and child smuggling. You're paying more for gas and groceries than you ever have before. Inflation at record highs. These are all the policies that Joe Biden has put in place that have slapped Americans across the face. And I really think they're going to reject those policies as we move into a general election. Just who's going to be that standard bearer, though, and who's going to carry that message forward remains to be seen. But Trump really has it on lock right now.
Well, Antjuan, I heard your rumblings. I know you're eager to talk about Hogan's critique of the president. But his approval rating has been shaky in recent months. And when we're talking specifically about black voters who you've written about really propelled Biden to the White House, he's dropped 10 points in black support from where he was right when he got elected to where he is right now among black voters. Should Democrats be concerned about Tim Scott in that regard?
Absolutely not. Although we cannot take black voters for granted because everyone knows by now that black voters are not monolithic. But here's a reality around the polling. The tectonic political plates are going to shift more than once in this race. The Republicans have not even broke huddle to figure out who's going to be their starting quarterback for the big game. So I think that polls really should not be a determination of where things will ultimately be. And when it comes to black voters, believe it or not, we are smart voters, and we know who's been for us and who's worked against us. We also know who's been trying to suffocate and silence our voices at the polls, and that group of people are everyone who's running in the Republican preference primary. Now, here's what people may not understand about the Republican preference primary, unlike the Democratic primary. Our primary is win, place, or show, much like horse betting. When it comes to the Republican primary, it's winner take all. And so my dear friend Tim Scott, who announced today, who's polling at less than 5% in South Carolina in many key places, the fact of the matter, if Trump runs the table in South Carolina, he's going to win all of the delegates, much like every other place. So there's a fight for second place. I'm excited about a Trump-Biden matchup because Joe Biden has had an accelerated legislative agenda that I'm happy to put up against Donald Trump any day of the week.
All right.
That's some real strategist insight there, Antjuan.
We have to leave it there. Antjuan Seawright and Hogan Gidley, great to talk to you both. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you much.